that wasn't even crazy to me. The craziest part to me, Colin, was people who were telling me that they were Christians and they loved Christ. And guess what? In the 5 to 7 years I'd known them, guess how many times they talked about Jesus with me? 0. That's not what I wanted. Why did you feel like you couldn't talk to me? And all my friends who were followers of Christ, I was like, why were you not telling me? Why were you not so passionate about this? There were crazy few who did have a stand for this. One of them was here. Forrest, come up here. This is not the thing I told you about earlier. This is a different thing, okay? So don't worry about that piece. That piece is tomorrow. Coach Sam, come up here. Can I get a second microphone for Coach Sam? And can I get 2 chairs for the both of them? So there was a moment, though, you came to Warrior Week for us. Talking about why you came to Warrior. Go back to why you came to Warrior. Because you were somebody that, on the outside, coming to Warrior was like, what are you doing, dude? You're like the beacon of society in Alabama for just about everything. Beautiful wife, amazing kids, great businesses, powerful man, man of Christ, man in the church, like this. You had all that. What was it brought you to Warrior?
Because I was drawn to the message that there was something more. And in my Christian theological circles, wanting something more was sinful. Why should I not be satisfied with what I have? Shouldn't I be content? Was it sin to want more? And so I struggled with that message. And you burst on the scene with your F-bombs and your tattoos, and there was a message beyond the message of my life is about expansion, and I was drawn to that.
Abundance.
And this hook was intense, and it was intense for many of you. How many of you here and in the virtual, if it was you for you, I want you to type in me, but here in the room, how many of you were drawn to this idea that there could be more? Raise your hand. In the chat, type in me if that's you. This is what draws everyone in. So you came looking for more, and our entry point at that time was Warrior Week. There was no other game. There was no Warrior Cons. There was no software. There was no read a book. There was like, come to Warrior Con and submit yourself to a 5-day immersion. In the middle of this event, you have a moment with Coach Sam. I want you two to dialogue that moment. Share from your perspective what occurred. Because I would have you consider that we're where we are right now because this man had the courage to do what he did in the middle of arguably one of the most intense experiences that a man can go through at the core of Warrior Week with one of the most ruthless trainers in that frame I've ever been around with Coach Sam. Forrest, what was going on for you?
Well, a little context is I hid the fact that I was even there. I didn't share it on social media because I was worried about what my Christian friends would think and what my pastor would think and what my parents would think. All they'd have to do was quickly Google Garrett and like, what in the world is Forrest doing? So I was there incognito, and I was asking God the whole time, why am I even here? But there was this one moment, if you'll remember, when you're going up the mountain, there were 4 stations. There was the Body Being Balance business stations, and we were in the Bean station, and you guys asked, what's coming up for you? You did a talk about being and where you are and what you're hearing, and it was my turn to speak, and I got up and I said, man, I'm just really... in a profound way, God is just stamping Matthew 6:33 in my heart. Seek ye first his kingdom and his... And Coach, in the way only Coach can, says, get the fuck out of here with your scriptures and go write your own scriptures. And no one's ever talked to me like that in my life. I'm like, go write my own scripture. And I kind of walked away, and I turned around and looked at him, and he looked at me, and he put his arms out. And he said, who do you think created all of this? And I said, I know him, and I was quoting him. He said, go write your own scripture. So I was about ready to walk off that mountain. And he sent me back down. He said, start over. And I said, God, why am I here? I want to leave. And he said, Forrest, I have you here for a purpose. And so that conflict led to ultimately Sam and I sitting knee to knee at the end of Warrior Week. And I was the only man in my group who didn't step into Kingdom. And he hotboxed me, and he had the rest of the group come and talk to me. And we were sitting knee to knee, and I said, Coach, I just got to ask, like, where do you stand? Who is Jesus to you? And it opened up this just beautiful conversation between me and Sam. And I said, Sam, the things we've been doing all week, they're beautiful, but they're just symbols. Hiding your deepest lie, burning your deepest lie, these guys over here, they think they're free. You've given them Kool-Aid when they actually need the lifeblood of Jesus Christ. And Sam looked at me and he said, listen, I put you in that group for a reason. Those men are broken. I knew you were strong in your faith. That's why you've been in that group. And I'm open to what you have to say. I tell you what, why don't you just start texting me scripture? So I'll stop and kind of let you tell your side of the story.
So, Coach Sam, this is going down for you. Those who have been through Warrior Week know that Coach Sam submits the frame to no man, including any pedestrian, any grandmother who might be walking up on the evolution, any state authorities, SWAT teams flying in with helicopters. Now, you have this moment with Forrest. What's opening up for you during that?
It's at Warrior Week, so it's a sacred space. It's not some fucking asshole online that just putting some words out there and that you don't know. Like this is like the thing about Warrior Week is not just a week. There's a 30-day buildup. Colin knows pretty much about it. We were talking about this morning, and there's a lot of there's an emotional buildup to that. So there's like 30 days of caring for the men that are inside, caring about the words that they're saying. For those of you that have been through the process, you know what it means. So it's 30 days of caring for Forrest. And I would be a fucking fool sitting there, not being open to what he's sharing. I remember we were face to face, and I was open. So that was the first stage. Okay, so you gotta understand this. Most motherfuckers are not open. And that's the problem. Because you're not going to hear it here. But if you do hear it here in ways that moves you, you got to be open. If you have Jewish background, you got to be open. If Muslim for 43 fucking years. Not from any country, from Iran. The greatest enemy of the United States of America. Like what you saw all day. People that are uncertain when Garrett brings the fire is to bring the fire, and from that fire, they see a possibility. That's what Warrior is. So, man, I was uncertain. Like I wasn't, because God to me was a concept, right? Like, think about this. If God to you is a concept, then you're fucked. Because as humans, we have to have a relationship. Like, I care for you, I love you because there's a relationship. I care dearly for fucking Garrett, but that's the love, right? That's based on a relationship. For many of you, a relationship. To not have that with God is to rob yourself from this concept of being. Don't even say the word God if it's a concept, because it's impossible for you to have a relationship with the concept. So I was uncertain. And that's why I had to be open. And because I was uncertain, I go, okay, well, I'm going to go figure this shit out. How did I got to Muhammad, right? Because that's where I was born in that region. I was born in there. It wasn't my choice. I was born in that religion, and I was taught that the prophet is Muhammad. So I'm going to go back. So then I called my friend Brian Q. Davis. He says, hey, bro, how do I figure this shit out? How do I go back to the source of this thing? He goes, well, there's one book. We were sitting in the Warrior van. He goes, there's one book. It's the Bible. And you were sending me scripture. And he goes, I'll take you through it. There's this thing called the Bible Project. You go on YouTube, and it kind of explains to you. And we started a journey together and started reading the Bible and learning about it.
So pause right here with this. What are you seeing right now? You, right now. Not then, now, with what you're hearing. What are you seeing? What did you do?
I mean, I just entered into what I saw was uncertainty. And the frames that he was even teaching from at Warrior Week, there was so much truth to it, but it lacked the true foundation of Jesus. I've always described Warrior as 75% brilliance built on 25% insanity. I don't say that now. And so when I challenged him, I saw confusion, but I also saw an openness. When we go to foreign countries and on mission trips and minister what's called men of peace. They don't understand yet, but they're open. They're men of peace, and that's what I saw in him. Especially, we concluded the conversation, well, bro, just start sending me scripture. But I also see, Paul said in Ephesians, Apollos planted, I watered, doesn't matter, God gets the glory. That this is not just my story. I mean, he's talking about Brian. He's talking about other men who have poured into his life where we're all doing a work. We don't care who gets the glory or how they come. We just want them to find Jesus. And to even be a small part of that story in his life or in your life, I count as some of the greatest joy in my life.
What do you see is available here that is missing in a lot of the church culture?
WarriorCon 1, didn't know why I was there. I felt compelled to be there. Day 2, I was sitting there with my jaw on my chest because men were confessing sin, they were confessing affairs, and you were having the whole group stand up and say, I see you, you were not alone, you were loved, there was transparency, there was forgiveness, and I said, where is this in the Christian church where we show up buttoned up, how are you, brother? I'm well. I fought with my wife all the way to church, but I'm doing fantastic, brother. Right? There was freedom. And God said, Forrest, the church needs what you're seeing. The church needs this freedom. And then you start speaking and you were resonated with the Spirit inside of me. I still have it in my journal from WarriorCon 1. How is this man speaking to the Spirit inside of me when I see no apparent connection with Christ? I didn't have a box to put it in. I still don't have a box to put in what's happening right now and the way it's delivered, beyond the language and beyond the sexual references and beyond everything. But I do know, Garrett, that there's men in this room and there's men on this screen who would never be here if we were preaching light is only light is only light. Like, we talk about the dark, we talk about the realness, we talk about the things you really say. And you know, I mentioned the message beyond the message. You were saying the things that are in my head that you can't say in Christian circles, because if I really said that, they would see who I was. And I'm like, man, this guy's just talking about what's in my head. And it drew me because it's real and it's authentic.